Pass the page. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson along with Chuck Carter and our guest, Bert Kearns. Bert's latest book, Shemp, the biography of the Three Stooges, Shemp Howard, the face of film comedy, not only takes a deep dive into the life and career of the man once voted the ugliest face in Hollywood, but is the very first book to debunk many of the myths surrounding Shemp, including some myths that were perpetuated by Mo Howard himself. Shemp, available wherever books are sold through our friends at Rowman and Littlefield. You can also find it at Amazon.com where books are sold online. For more on Bert, BertKearns.com, B-U-R-T, BertKearns.com. You mentioned Abbott and Costello. He worked with Abbott and Costello many times, came to be one, to the extent that Abbott and Costello had any say in casting. Shemp was often one of the people that they would personally recruit to join in their films. I don't remember whether this is in the Navy or Buck Privates, but Shemp, one of the scenes with Abbott and Costello is when they do 7 times 13 equals 28. And I don't remember if Shemp has any lines in that scene, but his facial reactions help build that scene, and he's great.
Yeah, I think that was in the Navy, because I think in Buck Privates he did a rap number with a rap and a dance number with Lou Costello, where he played a chef.
Yeah, it was in the Navy.
Buck Privates. The thing was, the Buck Privates was made in 1940, right? It was before the U.S. got into World War II, and it was a propaganda film, really. It was an enlistment comedy. Once the war broke out and that film became a smash, Universal Pictures couldn't make Abbott and Costello pictures fast enough. They had to Hold That Ghost. They were filming Hold That Ghost. They shelved that so they could get started on In the Navy, get another recruitment comedy going. But by the end of 1941, they were making Abbott and Costello pictures without Abbott and Costello. And one of them was called San Antonio Road. And they had Shemp and Lon Chaney Jr. as the Abbott and Costello team in the picture. And it's about some mobsters and some show people who are both competing to turn an abandoned roadhouse into a nightclub. And Shemp and Lon Chaney Jr. are like the Abbott and Costello in the picture. The problem is, and this was a problem in his career, was that Lon Chaney Jr. wasn't funny.
Yeah.
He was scary, he was drunk, he was mean. And through this entire picture, you can probably find it online on YouTube, he is punching and slapping Shemp around. And it hurts to watch. It's worse than anything Mo ever did, or Ted Healy. It is really a violent picture throughout. But Shemp put up with it. And then he made a second one where he really was sort of the star, which was called Private Buckaroo. If you want to see a film that's the closest to a starring vehicle for Shemp, it's Private Buckaroo, which is the film about Harry James, the jazz trumpeter, being drafted into the Army. And, the Andrews sisters are in it and all the usual Abbott and Costello people. But Shemp is definitely the comedic highlight to the entire thing.
Bert, did you know Mike Schlesinger?
No, I've seen a lot of his obituaries recently. I have heard of him. I didn't know him personally, no.
Okay, well, when Mike visited our program a few years back, it was around the time of the release of the Biffle and Schuster shorts, which are the it's the homage to great comedy teams like Abbott and Costello, like Laurel and Hardy. And Mike wrote and directed all of the shorts that are featured. He mentioned something called a Shemp take, this is something that the directors of when Shemp was doing a lot of his solo work, they would let the camera roll after whatever on the page they had to shoot. The director would often let the camera roll because they knew Shemp would come up with something off the page that was either just as good, if not better, than what he was asked to perform from the page. Or were you familiar with the term Shemp take?
I was familiar with that practice. As a matter of fact, Nick Santamaria, he was Biffle or Schuster?
He was Biffle.
He was Biffle. Yeah, Nick was a great resource in the book. He talked a lot about Abbott and Costello and has some great insights into Shemp. Yeah, Shemp was known for those great ad libs. As a matter of fact, I found out both W.C. Fields and Lou Costello had to take Shemp aside and say, "Look, sorry, pal, but I'm the funny one in this. I'm sorry, you're really funny. Your ad-libs are great. I get the jokes in this picture." So there you go. But yeah, Shemp was known for that.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been watching some of the solo Shemp two-reelers from Columbia recently in preparation for this, and they're good, but you can see when the scene ends and there's another 10, 15 seconds and he mutters something, or he's in a kitchen and he picks up a pan and says something, you can tell it's an ad-lib, and they're always funny, or at least interesting. So Shemp was a very spontaneously creative comedian.
Yeah, there's one picture, and again, it's mentioned in the book. I think it may have been one of the late Joe Palooka pictures, where Shemp is doing a kitchen scene, and he accidentally, or he's showing a guy how to cut up potatoes, and he pretends that he cuts his thumb, and then does a little ad-lib, and the other actor looks into the camera and breaks out laughing, and they kept it in the picture. Which was very, it would have been a blooper in a blooper reel today, but they just left it in.
Shemp, the biography of the Three Stooges, Shemp, powered by our guest Bert Kearns, available wherever books are sold through our friends at Roman and Littlefield. You can also find it Amazon.com, BarnesNoble.com, where books are sold online.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
Hi, this is Leonard Maltin, and you're listening to TV Confidential.
Do you hear something? No. There's a band playing someplace. Shh. Now, what were you saying, Bonnie Bell? There's a band playing someplace. Yes, I do hear a little someplace.
As Bert mentioned a few minutes ago, the book, Shemp, is also augmented by commentary from such comedy historians and or film historians as Nick Santamaria, Leonard Maltin, our mutual friend Jeff Abraham, many others. Leonard Maltin has, I think, one of the best lines in the book. Bert, towards the end, he describes Shemp as a near great.
A near great. I mean, yes, that's the thing with Shemp. As Nick Santamaria pointed out, that it was a comment from Bud Abbott, because he was the Abbott and Costello Authority. He said, Bud Abbott once said, "There's this great guy in pictures, and we use him. His name is Shemp Howard. He's the funniest guy out there, but he's stuck doing these crappy shorts because he doesn't have a great straight man. If he had a great straight man working with him, he'd be something else indeed." And that was it. When you look at Shemp's career again, he never had that great solo career in motion pictures that are known as classics. He rejoined the Three Stooges in 1946 after his younger brother Curly had a debilitating stroke. They were at a point where that would have been the end of the Three Stooges, and his brother Mo basically guilted him into rejoining. Shemp happened to be working on the Columbia studio lot, making his own solo pictures at the same time that the Three Stooges were still there. They had been at Columbia since the early 1930s. And Shemp, agreed to rejoin the Stooges on a temporary basis. Well, he wound up being with the Stooges to the end of his life and beyond, because they continued to make Shemp films after he died, using a stand-in, the fake Shemp.
The fake Shemp, yeah.
That was the trade-off. Had he not rejoined the Three Stooges, he may have lived longer, may have had a career in television. When you look at guys like Nat Hiken, who hired these great faces on shows like Part 54, Where Are You, and Sergeant Bilko, that sort of thing, he would have had a great career there. But he did achieve immortality when he rejoined the Three Stooges, even as known as the Fourth Stooge. He might just be remembered as as Chill Wills or Franklin Pangborn as a great character actor, but not in the esteem that he's held today by rejoining the Stooges. So I think it was a trade-off with him.
Yeah, a couple things from me, Bert. You use as a reference a great, huge book called Tour de Farce, which is a amazing history of the Stooges' live performances. I mean, stunning. It's a monster book, and it's great. And it is available at the Stoogium Stooges Museum in Pennsylvania. Anyway, it's interesting.
By the way, that book was written by Gary Lassen, who was I believe, a son-in-law or an in-law of Larry Fine, who runs the Stoogium in Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
that came out right at the end, right when I was handing in the manuscript. Jeff Abraham, my co-author on a book called The Show Won't Go On, a comedy historian himself, got the book immediately and got it over here. First of all, it was hard to lift. It's so big.
Yeah, it weighs 100 pounds.
I was just able to do it, to compare dates here and there and get some dates that make sure I was fact-checking the dates correct. And I did mention the book and gave it great kudos, because it's a tremendous work of dedication and pop culture movie scholarship. It's terrific. It's what it is. It's every appearance that the Three Stooges made, off camera, all their live appearances. And apparently, he's still finding out more. So if you buy the book today, you get some extra pages and an addendum, which finds more stuff that he's found out about them.
Oh, great. But what the book showed to me, among a million great things, is that as famous as the Stooges were with Curly in the 30s into the 40s, when Shemp took over, they continued the live appearances because Columbia would only pay them the same amount they'd always paid them, and they had, 7-8 months a year of free time. And the reviews, almost from the get-go, are still positive, even though it's a new guy. And that continues into the 50s until Shemp dies. He totally fit in with them, and they still got great reviews.
Yeah, I think that's also why he was sort of a natural. Mo does a lot of hemming and hawing in his book about how they finally got Shemp to join the Three Stooges. If you look at it, Shemp had a contract with Universal into the early 1940s. He came on board Columbia around 1943. Again, you got to check the date of my book, but around 1943, right about the same time that Curly had his first strokes and was first. You could see it in some of the shorts where he was really on the ball on some, and other ones he was sort of lethargic. Curly was starting to fade, and it was almost as if the people at Columbia were like, let's get somebody on the sidelines to fill in for him if we do finally, as they basically did, work him to death. And Shemp came on board. They gave him a few pictures. He appeared in the Blondie, a couple of those Blondie movies they made. That was a series back then. And he began to make his own solo shorts. And I remember seeing one of them, which was very funny, where he plays a waiter who, when he hears the song "Pop Goes the Weasel," becomes this wild boxer and a great boxer. And I saw it, and I thought it was one of the funniest things that I've seen Shemp do, until I realized it was a remake of an old Three Stooges short,
right,
called Shot for Shot, that Curly had starred in.
Yeah. Right.
And they even used, it was from 15 years earlier, and they had even used some footage from that, where you see, Larry Fine is in it from 15 years earlier. Shemp was being given reheated Stooges scripts, and so he never really had a chance to really blossom, even though his stuff got better and better as he led up to the point where he rejoined the Stooges. You know, at the same time, Mo was keeping them on the road all the time when they weren't working at Columbia. I mean, I think it had a lot to do with that old vaudevillian work ethic.
Right.
But also at the same time, that was the way they were bringing in money with their live appearances.
And one other thing, and this is, I think, a tragic thing we bring from all of this. Shemp died of a stroke. Curly had several strokes, and which eventually killed him. And Larry had a stroke, which disabled him and eventually killed him. Now, Mo had always said, and it has been said, that Mo pulled the slaps and, you know, that sort of thing. But apparently Larry had calluses on one side of his face. So the repeated smack, 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 smack on the other three over the years eventually killed them. So talk about giving your all for your art.
Right, and that goes back, you know, to their roots in vaudeville as that roughhouse act. That's how they got their laughs. Yes, he was able to pull the punches and the slaps and the pokes on camera. But as you mentioned, they weren't spending a lot of the year on camera. They were spending most of their time on the road. And when they were on stage, they weren't using sound effects. Maybe at the end they were. They may have used.
Yeah,
a few
later
they
did.
They weren't. I mean, you know, when they were talking about how Curly died, Mo's daughter wrote Curly's biography, and again, they like to say, oh, the reason that he had strokes and head injuries is because people would come up to him on the street and hit him with a cane or something, thinking he could withstand anything. But at the same time, she writes about standing in the wings and watching one of their routines when she was a little girl, and seeing Mo slap Curly and watching the spittle fly from Curly's mouth and seeing how hard it was. And Shemp's, you look at Shemp's face. You know, Shemp even said, you know, he'd say, if you want to know if we're really getting hit, just look at the lumps and bumps under my eyes, which you could see. And, you know, when it came down to it, although the medical examiner, the official death report said that Shemp had died of a heart attack, his family and his daughter-in-law is still alive today say, no, we were there. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage.
Right.
And, you know, after his strokes, so did Curly. You know, I found the medical report and the results of what the physicians found when, in about 1945, Curly had another stroke before the final one that basically ended his career. And they brought him to a hospital in Santa Barbara, away from Hollywood. And the doctors found all the things that were wrong with him. Of course, there was obesity, there was problems with his heart and from drinking, etc. But they also mentioned in the report that he had retinal hemorrhages, hemorrhaging behind his eyes.
Wow.
Right.
And that comes from getting hit like a football player. And, you know, and Larry in the end also basically died of a brain bleed. He died of a cerebral hemorrhage as well. Only Mo, you know, lived to 77, died a few months after Larry did. He died of cancer. Not that that's a
heavy smoker.
Died, but it's it's different than the other three.
Well, because he was not the recipient of all the physical slaps and the this and the that.
Yeah, his quote was, "I was the smart one. I took Ted Healy's place." That was his. He said that. He admitted it.
Bert Kearns is on the line with us. Bert's latest book, Shemp, the biography of the Three Stooges. Shemp Howard, the face of film comedy, available wherever books are sold through Applause Books. Chuck Carter is with us. We hope you'll stay with us as we continue our conversation with Bert Kearns here on TV Confidential.